Only by magic could they be discovered. Only by sound could their faces be seen.
My experience with George Bush was him doing a holographic image of turning into a lizard.
But only to sight they were as men, serpent-headed when the glamour was lifted.
They all have their quirks as to how they act, even in their reptilian form.
Thinking, oh my God, this can't be real. Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jens Pateo, and before I go on, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like my content. That being said, I'm going to do a special episode today, and it's about reptilians. And a lot of people, when I said I was planning to do this, asked me about it. You know, Jens, when are you going to do it? We really want to see it. And I had a little bit of reservations about doing it, and I want to talk about that first and add it as some disclaimer. And why I had some reservations is because there is a lot of, like fear in conspiracy theory circles associated with this subject. And I don't want to play into the fear and play into the sensationalism. Because, a smaller percentage of, the conspiracy public is really invested in or interested in like these fear-like subjects, or some people are like a little bit subconsciously addicted to fear. Like some people who follow the mainstream are addicted to like negative news. And, while I think it's important that we learn about our universe and learn about what is true, while I think the truth is important, I also think it's important to really be aware of, not playing into fear. And if your vibration is getting lowered through fear or through, reading about subjects that are really heavy, then, maybe it's time to take a break. So this is a disclaimer that I'm adding before we start. Is to really check yourself when you are delving into these kinds of subjects. Really check in with yourself, because that's really important. That being said, I will not go into what the reptilians do, because I think that's a more heavier subject. So I've chosen not to go into that for this video, but I will go into what they are, who they are, and the actual evidence for it. That's really, really important. I'm going to give you lots of clips, lots of exclusive clips, lots of information in this video, about their evidence. So the focus is not going to be on what they do, but the focus is going to be more on their existence and the proof of their existence, because it's important to, to expand our minds, to know that that there's other life forms in the universe, to know that there is much more between heaven and hell, as Shakespeare said, than meets the eye. That's really important to me. First, let me talk a little bit about what are reptilians exactly. Well, reptilians, they've been said to be aliens. Some say they come from inside of the earth. Some say they are like mutated humans from the future. I mean, there's a lot of different theories out there, and they might all be true at the same time. And this concept of, the lizard people was really popularized by David Icke, the British conspiracy theorist, who is, interestingly, who is banned from Australia, who is banned from the UK. Sorry, not from the UK, that's where he lives, but who is banned from Europe, from the Netherlands. And he's actually the one that really popularized this, and he's the one that gets banned. It's really interesting. You would think that, nobody would believe him, but if they ban him, it means that some of what he's saying is true. Otherwise, you wouldn't get banned by the powers that be, right? So that is quite interesting. But there's, of course, a lot of different sources that talk about this, as you will see in this video. And the big question people have, is it real or not? I remember 20 years ago when I just woke up to, this whole conspiracy world, and I read about this, and I couldn't believe it, because I had a mainstream, worldview. And I remember pacing back and forth in my room, and I was for the first time confronted with this information, thinking, oh my God, is this real? This can't be real. Like hybrid reptilians who look like people, but who can shapeshift into reptilian form? That's pretty crazy. And it's the shapeshifting that throws people off, because it's so unbelievable to people that they actually, can physically transform. Some people say it's just like an energy thing, it's like an overlay. But no, the witnesses talk about physical transformation, as we will go into in this video. So that's the thing that is hardest to believe for people, because it's so out there. But I'm always of the opinion we have to keep an open mind. I personally have not seen it. But, if there's people saying that this happens, and especially if there's multiple witnesses saying this, I'm gonna listen. And some people say a witness testimony is not evidence, but I beg to differ. A witness testimony is evidence. People are committed for murder, are jailed by courts by witness testimonies. So yes, witness testimony for me is evidence. Of course, it depends on the if the witness is speaking truth. But if there would be only one witness in the world, when we could say, okay, maybe this is not true, we don't know. But if there's multiple witnesses giving corroborating statements, then we have to take notice. That's the same they work in courts. If 3 people say you've committed a crime, yes, then the courts are going to say you're guilty. So in my opinion, it is evidence, although the skeptics will always say it is not evidence. So yeah, so let's continue, and I'm first going to go into the history of the reptilians, because there's a lot of evidence of, reptilian influence in our history, in recent history, but also in old history. And let me go over some of these examples. So, the serpent in the Bible, the serpent who seduced Adam and Eve to eat from the apple of knowledge. One of the main, religious texts, we already see this reptilian influence right there, where, they caused the fall of humanity out of the Garden of Eden. So that's already a reptilian, serpent-like influences there. In shamanic cultures, they talk a lot about snakes, and it's not always negative. And this is also something I'm going to stress in this video. It's not always negative. And I'm going to also go into positive examples. For example, shamans use snakes as the energy of the snake as a healing energy, or the energy of the snake in Kundalini, which is a positive energy. So it's not always negative, The reptilians we have on this planet in the form of animals, they're just like any other animal. They're not necessarily negative. They're different, they have different temperaments. Individuals have different temperaments, like it is with people. And for the human hybrid reptilians or the full reptilians, some are psychopaths, but some are positive. It's like you have positive humans, and you also have very negative psychopathic humans. And it is the same with this reptilian species, humanoid reptilian species. It's the same thing. So, it's good that we demystify this a little bit and, talk some common sense into this. Not all reptilians should be negative or should be considered negative. That's really important, and I'm going to go into that further along in this video. So continuing with the history, in the Aztecs, in the Americas, the Aztecs had the feathered serpent called Quetzalcoatl, and he was a deity in the Aztec culture that was related to the wind, to the sun, to Venus, to crafts and knowledge, and he was considered positive actually by a lot of people. Some people say he required human sacrifice, but not all sources agree with that. Some say he was very, very positive, and he was one of the most important gods of the Aztecs, the feathered serpent. Also in India, on the whole other side of the world, we have the story of the Nagas, which were a divine or semi-divine race of half-human serpent beings, so hybrids. And they could take human form or they could take their serpent form. So this is exactly congruent with the modern story of reptilians. You also have the story, also staying in India, in Southeast India, you had the Khmer, which was an empire in the southeast of Asia. And the stories of these Nagas have been part of the Khmer society, for thousands of years. So it's basically everywhere. And of course in China too, in the East. The Chinese emperors said they saw themselves as descendants of dragons. Now, it's interesting because this is a theme we're going to see coming up again and again and again, is that these elites believe that they are connected to dragons somehow, or that they are associated with dragons. We also see this in Europe, as I will come to in a little bit. But the thing to remember is the dragons are considered positive in China. So the dragon energy is considered a positive thing. So here we also see it's not necessarily negative. It can also be a positive thing. And then I will go into the Dutch royal family. Now, here we're going into different terrain. For the Dutch royal family, their house, their medieval castle is called, in Dutch it's called Drakenstein, which translates to Dragonstein. That's what it's called. It's called House of the Dragon. And their logo is also associated with a dragon, as you see in these pictures here. Their house in Italy is called in Italian Rocca dei Draconi, which is also a House of the Dragon. Quite interesting, don't you think? And if you see the carriages they go, like this is a pic from one of their carriages. There's like this creepy looking dragon on one of their carriages, you know, which is, what is that doing there? That's pretty interesting if you ask me. So there are these connections. Now, if we go back to the east, Hang Song Duon, I hope I pronounced it correctly, is a place in, I think it's in Thailand, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a huge underground cave, and it's associated with stories of reptilians that come from the deep. Locals who live there say they have seen, you know, strange reptilian and gray creatures that stand on two legs. And according to the local residents, you know, there's very strange creatures that dwell within these caves. They describe reptilian humanoid beings that actually, and they believe that they actually live deep inside that cave. And there's actually a picture, as you see here, from 1992. It's not very clear. It's an old picture from like a film that I was able to find that says, you know, that is claimed to be from 1992, a source that photographed one of these reptilian beings. So now we're going to go into the current times, an overview of evidence that is available in our current times. And I will play a few clips for you here, some rare clips that I've prepared for you guys. So one of the first sources I want to discuss here is a woman named Cathy O'Brien, and Cathy O'Brien is a mind control survivor from CIA mind control that has been speaking out about her experiences since the 1990s or since the 80s, and she wrote a book in 1995 called Transformation of America, as you see here, in which she describes her, you know, horrible experiences. And she talks about her mind control, but at a certain point she mentions reptilians too. And she mentions that she sees George A.W. Bush, so the father, the president that was the one that was president from 1998 to 1992. So George A.W. Bush, the father of Bush Jr. She describes him turning into a reptilian, but she, in her book, ascribes it to her mind control program. So she doesn't really believe it was real, but she says it was used to scare her because there is an innate fear associated with reptilians. And I'm going to play this clip for you guys here.
I heard discussions like at Bohemian Grove where they were talking about aliens and stuff, and even though my experience with George Bush was him doing a holographic image of turning into a lizard because it's an innate fear of reptiles that's been conditioned from so many generations within us, that it's an MK Ultra mind control theme to say that it's reptilian in that regard. But it doesn't preclude the fact on where is the alien influence, and is there alien influence, and what does it all really mean?
So she not only talks about George Bush, she also talks about another person, is Miguel de la Madrid, who was president of Mexico at the time. Also Bush was in power. And I'm going to read a little bit from her book here, where she describes the interaction with de la Madrid. So she says, De la Madrid had related the legend of the iguana to me, explaining that lizard-like aliens had descended upon the Mayans. The Mayan pyramids, their advanced astronomical technology, including sacrifice of virgins, was supposedly inspired by the lizard aliens. He told me that when the aliens interbred with the Mayans to produce a form of life they could inhabit, they fluctuated between a human and iguana appearance through chameleon-like abilities. And then he said, Miguel de la Madrid said, quoted by Cathy O'Brien, a perfect vehicle for transforming into world leaders. De la Madrid claimed to have Mayan alien ancestry in his blood, whereby he transformed back into an iguana at will. De la Madrid produced a hologram similar to the one Bush did. His hologram of a lizard-like tongue and eyes produced the illusion that he was transforming into an iguana. Now here, because she was under mind control, she believes it is an illusion. But there are other witnesses that say it's actually not an illusion. It's actually real. So this is one source already that's speaking about this, albeit in the form of where she thinks it was an illusion to mind control her. Now, on to another witness, and I'm going to play you guys a clip here of Janet Archer. Now, Janet Archer is also a person like Cathy O'Brien who was used in mind control projects, horrifically abused, but, they survived and they're speaking out, so that's a testament to the strength of the human spirit. And she describes actually the Queen Mother, how the Queen Mother is actually shape-shifting into a reptile. So I'll play you this clip here.
So this is my message to the world. This is the truth about our royal family, who so many of you admire. Today you're going to know who they really are, and more to the point, you're going to know what they really are. And you're going to know what goes on behind those walls. And what I'm going to say right at the beginning of this, that I only speak of my own experiences. So everything I tell you today is my truth and what I witnessed and what I experienced and what I went through behind these walls. My name is Jeanette Archer. I am a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. I am also a survivor of our royal family. Today I have chosen to return to Windsor Castle to tell the world the truth about what really goes on inside those walls. Today I want to tell the world about what these people really are, especially her that wears the crown. Please know that what I am going to tell you now is very difficult for me. I was tortured beyond imagining, so I would never speak of what I saw. Please bear with me, guys, with this one.
You got this, mate.
The Queen and Prince Philip, and once again, let me tell you something. I'm speaking from my own experiences. I know many, many survivors of the royals, many, but I will not, without anybody's permission, ever repeat their testimonies. I have two today that I'm going to tell you about, but right now I'm talking about me. The Queen and Prince Philip are not human.
No.
I have been mocked, I've been laughed at, I've been attacked, I've been through every single thing you can imagine by trying to get this truth out there. I couldn't give a flying fuck what you react like. I am going to tell you the truth. They are reptilians. They shapeshift from human form into lizard form. I saw this with my own eyes many, many times. When I was taken out for rituals in this place, these places, the Queen would come out last because she was the master of ceremonies. Just like she leads this country, and Prince Philip is always second, she would come out last. She was the master of ceremonies. And she would walk out, and there would be a glitching process that goes on. And she would turn around and stare me straight in the eyes if it was my turn on the concrete slab. And she would make me watch her change. Her face would change first. She would turn and look at me and make me stare her in the face while she glitched and went from human form to reptilian form. Then she would turn around so I could just see the back of her, and this was the same routine every single time. She would then change in physical form and she would become very, very tall. I can't tell you how tall, I don't know, but very, very tall. Very tall and very thin. Prince Philip would already be in reptilian form. I never saw him change from human to reptilian. I just used to see him change back, but it was all about her. I want you to know that this is not easy for me, you know that. But this is also something that I wish was not true, because this is a whole other level of what the world needs to know. You need to wake up to the fact that everything you think you know to be true is a lie. Everything you think to be true is a lie.
So here you see that you know, a lot of people say the reptilian thing, it's more a symbolic thing for the energy behind the people, for evil people that would do things. But no, she's saying it's a real thing. The shape-shifting is a real thing. It's a thing that happens in real time. So there's another witness that talks about the Queen shape-shifting, as I will come to further in this video, and then I will expand on it more. Another person that talked about the Queen shape-shifting, and this is not first-hand witness testimony, this is second-hand, is a woman named Christine Fitzgerald. And Christine Fitzgerald was a close friend and confidant of Princess Diana.
Do you think
for
Mrs.
over
Parker
9
Bowles
years.
was a factor
And Diana was able to
in the
discuss,
breakdown of your
various
marriage?
esoteric matters with her.
Well, there were three of
Princess
us.
Diana was interested in spirituality and esotericism. She would discuss things with Christine, which she would not discuss with other people, because she knew Christine was a healer, a psychic, and intuitive. And Diana was fearful of being seen as crazy if she would discuss this publicly. That's what Christine Fitzgerald says. So I know this is secondhand. This is not straight from Diana, of course. And Christine Fitzgerald says that Diana referred to the royals as the lizards. She says they are reptiles, and she believed, according to Christine Fitzgerald, she believed they were not human. And Diana was found this out just before she married Charles. That's what actually Christine Fitzgerald claimed. And she said that, Diana was just there to provide children, and actually the true partner of Charles was actually Camilla Parker Bowles, already then, in that time.
Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
So that's the information from Christine Fitzgerald. Now, another witness that talks about the royal family and reptilians is a person named Arizona Wilder. Arizona Wilder was first interviewed by David Icke in 1998, and I will play you some clips from it. So she was, and I remember seeing this video in 2004, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And this was the only source I kind of really knew of. But now there's so many sources kind of saying the same thing, what she says. So let me play here a clip where she, names some of the people that were present in these gatherings. And you gotta understand, not all the people she names here are reptilians. She said she's seen some shapeshift. She says that not all these people are actually reptilians. So let me play that first clip here.
Can we talk about some of the famous names that people around the world would know who, in your experience, have taken part in these rituals that you've conducted? You say you've conducted them in Europe and the United States. Can we start with the United States?
Yes, I have seen at rituals, I have seen George Bush, I have seen Madeleine Albright, I have seen Henry Kissinger, I have seen Ronald Reagan, also, by the way, seen his wife, Nancy Reagan. I have seen Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton at the time. At these rituals, she is involved. The other people that I have named, and I have seen shapeshift into reptilians. I have not seen Hillary Clinton actually shapeshift, but she is involved. I have seen the two sons when they were young, the two sons of George Bush present at these rituals.
Are these the sons that have become governors?
Yes, one is in Florida and one is in Texas. I have seen, did I mention Jay Rockefeller? And he shapeshifts. I've seen George Deukmejian and Ronald Reagan again, having been governor in California. There have been people such as Newt Gingrich I saw, and I didn't know at the time that he was Newt Gingrich. I recognized that he was Newt Gingrich when Clinton came into power, and after he was, Newt Gingrich was then elected Speaker of the House. And I was horrified to realize that this man was also there. All of this has affected me to the point I don't vote. All of these people seem to all be connected to the Illuminati, and I don't feel like being part of having anything to do with them.
Presidents like Carter and Ford and Clinton.
I've seen Ford there.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford, yes.
Are they all reptilian bloodlines?
I haven't seen Carter shapeshift.
You've seen him at rituals, have you?
Yes. Gerald Ford, I have seen shapeshift. And Johnson also.
Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson.
So this is pretty interesting if you ask me. There's also another clip here where she talks about the Queen in that context. So let me play that clip here.
I've seen the Queen Mother there, and I have seen the Queen there. I've seen Princess Margaret there. I've seen Charles there. and they shapeshift. And I have seen, I'm not coming up with his name right now, but he was president in France after de Gaulle. I've seen the Rothschilds there. I used to see the Rothschild that lived in England there, but the one that still goes there and is a shapeshifter, Guy de Rothschild, Baron Guy de Rothschild, has been to all of these rituals and has been over in this country under the name of Dr. Barrington. I have seen Tony Blair there, and he shapeshifts. I have seen Prince Philip there. They all have their quirks as to how they act, even in their reptilian form. And they all, I mean, they don't act all like robots, but they have their quirks. They have their so-called personalities, but they are all cold-blooded. I have even, since I've seen a picture of some people that are talking about this subject, when I've seen their pictures, I've recognized them. I did a double take a few weeks ago when I saw again someone who's been talking about around this subject, and it seems to be popular right now.
Who's that?
This man by the last name of Sitchin. I've seen at rituals, and he is a shapeshifter.
So at the end here, she talks about, Zechariah Sitchin. And Zechariah Sitchin, interestingly, is a person that promotes the theory that we are descended from aliens, that we are created by the aliens as slaves to dig for gold, by the Anunnaki to dig for gold. And I actually don't believe this theory. Now, this would be a whole other video to go very deeply into that and why I think it's fake, but I don't believe it because it imprints in our minds the idea that somehow these aliens created us and we are their slaves, we are their property. So, it would make sense, if it would be true, it would make sense that, these reptilians want to implant in us the idea that we are descendant from them and created by slaves and them. I don't believe for a second we are nobody's slaves. We are not created by nobody. And the human is a divine design. The human is a divine form and has not been created as a slave by aliens. This is like a very toxic idea to implant in our mind. So I don't agree with that theory of Sitchin. Now there's another clip where Arizona also talks about the shape-shifting process. And, as I said, it's not just an energy thing. It's not like an energy overlay. It's a real physical shape-shifting. And I will play you that clip here.
What happens take the Queen Mother as an example, what happens when they shapeshift? I mean, what do you see?
You start to see changes happen, and they're happening so fast that it's almost, it's the closest thing that I've seen to it is what they're now doing with computer technology. It's just a literal transformation that happens very quickly, and they get taller and they get bigger, and they don't look at all as reptilians like they do as humans, and thus the wearing of the robes, because if they were in clothes, the clothes would be torn apart.
This is a real physical process, and this is the part that is so hard to believe for a lot of people. It's a physical shapeshifting these witnesses are talking about. And this is like the second person that says it, and there's more to come. Interesting also is that, if it would be true that these people are descendant from reptilians, if that they have like a part reptilian DNA, which makes them able to be hybrid reptilians, or which enables a reptilian soul to incarnate in these bodies and to be, to fluctuate between human and reptilian appearance, is that they are all these elites are like from a certain bloodline, and that is to be proven. I mean, even Prince Charles was bragging in a British program that he was descended from Vlad the Impaler, where the stories of Count Dracula come from. Vlad the Impaler, the bloodthirsty ruler who impaled his enemies along the roads, and he because he was buying a property in Romania where Vlad the Impaler originated from.
And it's Prince Charles, who can trace his ancestry back to Romania's dark and distant past.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler, you see. So I do have a bit of a stake in the country.
As it were.
He has a stake in this country. So, all very interesting if you ask me. And there's evidence that all these elites are related to each other. I mean, there's evidence that all, for example, US presidents except one are descended from some, English king that lived in the Middle Ages, deep in the Middle Ages. Not saying that all U.S. presidents would be reptilians, of course, But you know, it's quite interesting. And also, and I found this out only recently, that on Wikipedia it says, I saw this on Wikipedia, is that there is no police allowed on Balmoral. Now, Balmoral is an estate of the Queen of the British Royal House in Scotland, where also that Janet Archer that you seen the clip already from talked about, where she's been. And on Balmoral, there is an exception in British law that the police may not search the estate without the king's permission. So basically, the police cannot come there if they suspect a crime, and they have to get the police permission. This is an excellent way to hide crimes, right? Or to hide nefarious behavior. It's crazy. Not a lot of people know this, but it's crazy that this law exists. So another interesting fact is that the Vatican, the new Pope's audience hall, which was built, a few years ago, exactly resembles a snake head. It's specifically designed to resemble a snake head, as you can see here in the pictures. And there is a statue inside of that Pope's audience hall, which is said to be Jesus Christ, but actually resembles, from almost all angles, resembles like a reptilian. So I think that's pretty interesting. Then another witness is David Icke himself, and David Icke used to be a sports presenter for the BBC, and he met Ted Heath in that regard backstage, in the makeup room for some TV program. And he says he's seen Ted Heath's eyes turn like jet black, and he has some other witnesses that came forward that told certain things about Ted Heath to him, and I will play this clip for you guys here.
Ted Heath, who I actually experienced in a makeup room in Sky Television back in 1989, do some strange things indeed, which I didn't understand at the time, but I sure as heck do now. When I arrived at the studio, I was told to go to the makeup room. I was led there, but left there because the makeup lady wasn't there. And there was one other person in the room, and that was Ted Heath, who'd just been interviewed on the program and then had come to have the makeup taken off. So I sat in the chair next to him, just two of us, that's all. And of course I know Ted Heath and all that stuff, so never met him before, but I know of him, of course, as Prime Minister. So I turned to him and I said, all right then, nice to meet you. And he never reacted. And he turned to me, he never moved his body, just his head, never acknowledged me at any time. And he looked at me, and he started at the top of his head, and once he turned his head to look like that, he never moved his head either once he turned his head. The only thing that moved was his eyes. And his eyes started at the top of my head, and all I can describe it as, I said when I came back afterwards to my family, I said, you'll never believe the experience I've had with Ted Heath tonight. He scanned me, this guy. His eyes went from the top of my head down to my feet, just his eyes moving, like I say, and then back up again, got to the top of my head, and then just turned his head back and looked at the mirror, never said a word. What happened was that all of his eyes, the whites, the color, and the pupil, they all went black. The whole of both eyes was black. Now, when we look at people, we talk about what? We talk about making eye contact. Now, I'm looking at you, and I'm making a contact somewhere here, right? When his eyes went into this blackness, there was no point where I made eye contact. It was like looking, I can only describe it as looking into two black holes. There was no point where it stopped. I was contacted by a lady who used to be the wife of a guy who was warden of a place called Burnham Beeches in the west of London, not far from Slough, about 25 minutes drive from Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence. And she said that her husband was a Satanist because they had to be to do the job, because one of their roles was to organize satanic rituals for the elite in Burnham Beeches. And what she told me was that she was out in Burnham Beeches, which is an area of woodland and clearings, one night during this period where she was with her satanic husband there. And she saw a light, and she followed the light. She's going through the bushes, and when she got closer, she saw a ritual going on with people in long gowns. And what amazed her was the man leading the ritual was Ted Heath. This was amazing enough, and as I'm leaving, after having had this chat where she described all this, I'm finishing my cup of tea and I put it down. And I made a joke of it. I just said to her, I'm having some strange experiences recently. I said, I keep meeting people laughing that tell me they keep seeing people turn into reptiles. I made a joke of it, and I turned to go. And as I turned to go, all I could hear was this woman heaving for breath. And I turned around, and she's holding her chest, gasping for breath. And the first thing she said was, "Oh my God, I thought it was only me." And I said, "What are you talking about?" Because, you know, I hadn't talked about this stuff to anyone before. I was just letting it kind of sizzle away, see where it went. And she said, "Well, I wasn't going to tell you that because I thought, you know, Ted Heath having a satanic ritual was stretching enough." She said, "Well, what actually happened was, as I observed this ritual, Heath turned into a reptile and grew by about 2 feet."
Now, on to another witness. Another witness that talked about this is Juliet Bryant. Now, Juliet Bryant is a woman from South Africa who, when she was young in the 2000s, in the beginning of the 2000s, she met one of Jeffrey Epstein's associates in a bar, and that woman, and I forgot her name, I think it was some kind of model that worked with Epstein. She said, "Oh, do you want to become a model? You know, Epstein, he's like the king of America, and he's going to make you big, and he's owner of Victoria's Secret and stuff." And she went with Epstein because she was young, and she wanted to become a model, and she was like abused and raped by Epstein. And Epstein, you know, kind of actually abducted her, threatened her, and abducted her to his estate, you know, the island, and his ranch in New Mexico. And Juliet Bryant, you know, she talks about her experiences with Epstein, which I will not go into, but there's one interesting thing that she says is that, and I will play you the clip, is that she says she's seen Epstein transform into a reptilian. So let me play you that.
I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes. It was like a reptilian, draconian, alien sort of thing. And it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something. You know, it's not an easy thing to talk about because I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't understand it if they haven't seen it. But I saw it, and you know, I'd like to be lie detected on it. I'd actually love to be lie detected on it.
So see, so it's interesting that she's saying that, and she's not making this up. I mean, you could argue she's making the reptilian part up, but she's been there. She's confirmed to be on the Epstein, you know, the infamous Epstein flight logs. She's been on Epstein's island. So, you know, and then why would she, you know, make up a story about Epstein turning into a reptilian? It doesn't make sense. I do believe her that she saw that. So another person that likes to talk about reptilians is Nancy Pelosi. And Nancy Pelosi, you know, the politician in the US, there's been multiple instances where she says, you know, we are reptilian, you know, in a kind of joking way, but I think it's kind of interesting. Like, let me play you that clip here.
You know, we're different from the president. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win. Others are winning the whole country. 10.
You know, of course she was going to say that, but...
Poor baby.
Yeah, she's really, really committed to that. It's really sad.
No, I'm not a poor baby. I'm more reptilian and cold-blooded and go in to win the election.
We're going to take a short break. I want to talk to you more about President Biden and some other things.
Thank you.
So see, it's very obvious that she, you know, she likes to mention on multiple occasions that she's like a reptilian. that she has like reptilian qualities, you know, quite interesting. Now, the other one who likes to flaunt is this Kim Kardashian. Recently, with Halloween, for Halloween, she turned into a reptilian. You know, she had like reptilian paint on her with scales and everything, as you see here in these pictures and in this clip. And it's, you know, why? I mean, she definitely does not do anything to help dispel the theories of billionaire reptilians, right? Because she's a billionaire. So, you know, I think this is quite interesting. And actually, the guy who did her makeup for her to turn into a reptilian is a person that works with Balenciaga. And Balenciaga is a luxury fashion brand that really, you know, got a lot of critique because they had pictures of like children in BDSM, like really weird stuff. And she never has distanced herself. She's still working with that. And there was like reference to well, I can't say the word here, but Balenciaga also sells shoes like reptile sneakers. I mean, what is this? It's all pretty weird if you ask me. Now, another clip that I'm going to show you is of Fritz Springmeier. And Fritz Springmeier is a researcher that was, you know, active in the 80s and 90s that wrote the book Bloodlines of the Illuminati, talking about these elite bloodlines. Now, Fritz Springmeier never talked about reptilians in his work or in his book, but in one lecture, which I managed to find. It took me, it's a very rare clip. It took me a while to find it. It's a very bad quality. You know, some of these clips are bad quality because, you know, they're very old. But at the end of one of his lectures, he says that he shows pictures of people with reptilian eyes. Now, he talked to survivors, and he didn't really want to talk more about it, but here he talks about it. So let me play that.
Surprise today, the surprise ending that I promised you. These are taken from American magazines, and you may have to do a double take. It's real easy to see it on the originals. It may not be quite so easy to see it on the transparencies. Reptilian eyes. Did I get that right? Yeah. All of these pictures out of American magazines, reptilian eyes. So like the lady who told all these stories in Arabia, you know, you'll have to invite me back for me to tell you more. Reptilian eyes. Can you see it? You see what I'm saying? Look up here at there. Do you see how the eyes are reptilian? I've actually met some very respectable people who wouldn't tell me stories, like this one psychologist who's seen countless numbers of people in her life, who's actually seen people like this. She asked, how do they get reptilian eyes? I wasn't going to talk about this subject, but I don't have final answers on some of these things. I can give you tentative answers. One of the big programs that the Illuminati is carrying out is the creation of Nephilim. Today, there's a lot of genetic experiments and Nephilim being created that are hybrids, and this is a very important part of what the Illuminati is doing. And my guess is this relates to that. You talk about your lineages like your Rothschilds, and they have been intermarrying with what the public calls aliens, and so that these people aren't human as we would know human.
So see, very interesting that he also, you know, it's not a big part of his work, but, you know, at the end he mentions it. So also, again, very, very, very interesting. Now, I also said that I would give examples of positive reptilians, and I'm going to give 2 examples of that. So not all reptilians are necessarily negative. There's also positive reptilians, and I'm going to show you here some this video from Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. I cannot put the audio on it because it's behind a paywall, and otherwise they would copyright strike me. But in this this was like 10 years ago, and in this episode of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, they interview a woman called Jujuyoli Kuida, I hope I pronounced it correctly, who is from Arizona, who is a positive reptilian. And she says she's a member of the Phaeacian race from the Andromeda galaxy, from a planet called Fakwi. And it's a 5th-dimensional race, so they're existing at a higher level of vibration, so they're not 3-dimensional. And she says she incarnated from a 5th-dimensional reality as a reptilian into human form, into 3D human form, which she is now. And she says there were some things done to her DNA to make this possible. And she, in the interview, she says she shape-shifted sometimes during her sleep, which her partner confirms actually in the video. You know, she also talks to a psychic and starts speaking this reptilian language. Again, I can't let you hear the audio. And even the skeptic in the show, that is a skeptic, says, as you can see him here saying it, says that he's seen her eyes shapeshift into reptilian. He saw it for a second turning into a slit. And she said when she shapeshifts, she feels a kind of pressure behind her eyes. So she feels a physical thing. And she says when she feels like the shape-shifting starting is when she feels high positive emotion. So she's positive. She's a healer. She's a Reiki healer. You know, she's working for the good, for the advancement of humanity. She loves animals. And she says when she feels a high vibration, when she feels love, she feels like she wants to transform into a reptilian. So she says this is the difference between the negative reptilians and the positive reptilians. The positive reptilians, they want to change into their reptilian form, when they feel positive, high vibrational emotions. And the negative reptilians, as we see in the previous video, they change into their reptilian form when they feed off negative energy. So that is the difference between them. So it's important to know that there's also positive, like just like the human race, there's positive individuals and there's a small minority negative, which has wielded a lot of power through the centuries, but that is changing. So another case of positive reptilian people that came out is a person called Carmaine Rosario Said from the UK, and she had ET contact experiences from childhood. She doesn't know the specific name of the reptilian species she's associated with, but she said she had shapeshifted twice, and once was when she was abducted by what she thinks was the UK military in the UK. She was brought to a base where they did certain experiments on her, and they injected, this is from the book Meet the Hybrid, so if you're interested in the story, check this book out. And they, while she was abducted into this military base, they injected a kind of a substance into her, and she turned into her reptilian form. And she exactly describes the shape-shifting process. So again, it's a physical thing. And I'm going to read it out aloud here for you guys, what she's describing. I'm going to read this little piece from the book here for you guys. An electrical current is now coming from the needles and running through my body, and the pulse intensity is increasing. The sensation becomes painful and the cold is replaced by heat, which increases and continues to be felt throughout my body. The sensation is unlike any I have ever felt. I can feel my muscles contracting without me actively doing this. My bones feel as if they are stretching. I want to move, but I cannot, nor can I speak. My skin feels very tight, as if it's stretching. I can feel my muscles growing, my whole anatomy changing. My fingers feel as if they're getting longer. I feel my tail beginning to emerge and grow, and my skin changes to scales. Throughout the shift, I am laying on my back and I feel a certain familiarity about this, although with an unfamiliar sense of being forced, taking place quickly and painfully. I can feel my nails touching the bedsheet where they have grown longer. My long hair has gone and my eyes have changed, and I can feel the scales on my skin. I am now in full reptilian form. So this was an abduction experience she describes, where she was actually forced by some substance or some manipulation to change into her reptilian form while she was being studied by, some military. So, but she is, in real life, she is a healer, a psychic intuitive, and she also helps to heighten the vibration of the earth. So there's positive, and not everything is negative. So, in closing, I want to say I felt this too in meditation when I was preparing for this YouTube video. On one of the days that I was preparing for it, in my morning meditation, I felt that like what was being shown to me is that the negative reptilian influence on Earth is really lessening. So that's really important to understand. And another Dutch channeler actually, also talked about this. I forgot about this, but then after I got that download in that meditation, I remember that Thea Terlo was a Dutch medium, and she also talks about how the negative reptilian influence on our reality is really lessening. So we're in times where the vibration of the earth is rising. We're actually going into a positive direction. So while it is important to know about, I think it's important to know about these reptilians, to know what is really out there, to stretch our minds, to know that reality is so much more expansive than, what the mainstream science says. It is important, but we cannot let ourselves hang in this negative space and fear space about reptilians. So because I think we are moving in a positive direction where this negative reptilian influence is going away. So that's, the earth is ascending. We are going into a cycle. The cycles are changing and we are going into a much more positive world. This would be a whole YouTube video in and of itself, which I maybe will do in the future about, the cycles on the earth and how we're going into a positive direction. But, I've come to the end of this video. So guys, I hope you liked it. If you like my stuff, please don't forget to like and share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Jens Pateo and I will see you in another video. Bye bye.